Hello everybody and welcome to the Daily Review, episode number 188 for Friday, August 7th, 2009. And the film I'm going to be reviewing for you guys today is Dancer in the Dark. This film is written and directed by Lars Von Trier. I also reviewed a film of his called Dogville a while back. I think it's in the pre-100 period, probably around the 80s or the 90s, that I actually liked quite a bit. This film stars Bjork as the main character and also has David Morse and Catherine Deneuve, who is in the film Repulsion, which I plan to review for you guys very soon. I still haven't recorded that one yet, but I'll get around to it. Dancer in the Dark is about a girl named Selma, played by Bjork, who is slowly going blind, and she's a Czech immigrant, and her eyesight is terrible, and it's continually going worse and worse. She has a son who also suffers from the same disease, I guess, of going blind, and she's saving up all this money to try to get him an operation. And one day, her next door neighbor basically steals the money from her. And some events transpire, and what occurs is kind of a deep character study of Selma and kind of throws you all into her mindset and her world. Dancer in the Dark is a very interesting film. I think the one thing I want to tell people who know nothing about this film is that there are a lot of musical bits in the film. Selma is a character who really loves musicals, and so there's a lot of times in her life when she is feeling very depressed and very sad, she pictures music and then starts to picture this whole musical, and when they do the musical numbers, Lars Von Trier basically makes the color palettes a little more brighter than the gloomy color palettes that he has, so you know when they're coming. Everything looks a little more polished, and they break out into song and dance and stuff. So if you're like me, who is a guy who doesn't like musicals, you should still see this movie because it is absolutely fantastic. And that's a lot to say from me, coming from somebody who A, doesn't like musicals at all usually. Not that I don't like them, I just don't particularly care for them. And B, coming from somebody who doesn't really care for Bjork. I don't hate her by any means, I just don't really listen to any of her music. I've always thought her voice sounds very strange and just not really my thing, but this film is phenomenal, but I do think that it is divided filmmaking, and by that I mean I think people are going to see this and either love it or absolutely hate it, and I could definitely see both sides as to why. But all that being said, it is extremely powerful, and especially the climax of this film, the last half hour, it's hard not to be so invested in what's going on, and I think the main strength of that, outside of Lars Von Trier's directing and his writing, is Bjork's performance, and it's shocking to me how amazing she is in this film. I mean, I went into this film with little high hopes. I've heard a lot of good stuff about it, but I remember thinking, Bjork as an actress, I don't know. She is one hell of an actress. I don't know if she was nominated for Oscars. I would think not, just because it's such a small film, but she really should have been, because there are so many scenes in here where I'm just like mouth agape staring at the screen like, oh my gosh. One of the things that I will say is initially in the beginning when they do cut to these musical sequences, I found them a little off-putting, I guess. I started to think I would much rather have the story be told without the musical sequences. But once I got to the last half hour to 40 minutes of this film, I started to realize all of these musical sequences are needed. They're so necessary. I took back everything I said about the film in my head initially, because they truly are needed, because by the end of this film, you're hoping for another musical sequence, and you're hoping that it's just going to cut to a musical sequence, because the stuff that you're watching is pretty harrowing towards the end. It's an amazing film. It's a difficult film to watch at the very end, but I think it's one that should probably be seen by most people or anybody with an open mind. It's one of the few movies that made me actually cry. There are very few movies that do that to me, and Dancer in the Dark definitely does it. I think I got the best comment from Boomstick Please, who basically said, if you don't cry at the end of Dancer in the Dark, you are not a human being. And I totally understand what he means. such an amazing film. I'm so glad that I finally saw it. I give Dancer in the Dark a very, very enthusiastic 5 out of 5. I plan on watching many, many more Lars Von Trier films because it's just incredible filmmaking. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll be back tomorrow with another one for you.